Saling Sapa Jalan-Jalan hanya di YouTube channel Taufik Sagwanto. Like, share, and subscribe.
Objek-objek itu sebenarnya adalah milik komunitas dan museum hanya mendisplay. Jadi ada tren seperti itu. Tren lainnya adalah soal inklusivitas. Bagaimana museum bisa merepresentasikan suara-suara yang beragam, bahkan suara-suara yang selama ini cenderung termarginal. Untuk bicara soal etik dan keadilan sosial. Tren yang sekarang juga berkembang adalah soal restitusi dan provenance untuk objek-objek koleksi yang ada di Belanda. Jadi bicara bagaimana koleksi-koleksi seharusnya didekolonisasi. Jadi beberapa koleksi yang ada di Belanda yang sebenarnya itu berasal dari proses perampasan yang dilakukan oleh pemerintah kolonial di Indonesia, dan beberapa sebenarnya sangat terkait dengan peristiwa-peristiwa kekerasan. Jadi contohnya misalnya beberapa artefak dari Singosari yang selama ini menjadi bagian dari koleksi Museum Volkenkunde di Leiden sekarang dikembalikan gitu ya ke Indonesia. Kemudian beberapa objek rampasan dari perang Puputan di Bali, di Badung, dan juga di Lombok itu dikembalikan dan mulai dibuat narasi yang berpusat pada
paradigm shift in museums. I think it all comes together in this definition of Michael, and you have national community in Indonesia, so I would not elaborate specifically on this. Was available after this meeting. There are a lot of things I would not speak about, so I'm not really to address the idea of the position of the visitor. You know your visitors, you are professionals, but of course the main questions are that we know who they are, why do they come to our museum, what do they know, what is their level of knowledge, and what are their aims, what do they want of your museum. Alright, neither will speak largely or extensively about collections. You know, you are the carers of the Indonesian cultural heritage, and you know collections need care, need preservation, conservation, are only interesting if there are connected data, context information, that brings meaning and significance to collections. Otherwise, they are these objects. You are surrounded by stakeholders. Also, the public is a stakeholder, cultural government is a stakeholder, sponsors are stakeholders, and so on. And from these four parties, there are only many. And I call that the initial thought. As a wish, a need, urgency, a request from somebody, or even an order from your government, please make an exhibition. Okay, yeah. think about it and rethink it. Why an exhibition? Why it is important to have an exhibition? Why is it important to have it in our specific?
Jadi siapa pengunjung yang ditargetkan? Kenapa kita mau mereka datang? Mereka itu siapa? Level utamanya seperti apa? Dan kira-kira apa yang mereka inginkan dari museum kita? Kemudian juga soal koleksi, bahwa koleksi pasti butuh perawatan, preservasi, konservasi tadi. Bukan hanya itu, ada hal penting lainnya bahwa dia harus memiliki data atau konteks informasi tentang objek tersebut. Karena kalau tidak ada informasi, tidak ada narasi, maka dia hanya menjadi heritage yang mati, warisan yang mati atau heritage. Perlu memikirkan kembali kenapa membuat sebuah pameran, kenapa membuat sebuah museum, kenapa itu menjadi penting, dan kenapa butuh museum yang spesifik seperti yang kita kelola. Untuk siapa? Untuk pengunjung yang mana? Bagaimana kita bisa menyampaikan pesan? Apakah kita orang yang paling tepat untuk melakukan itu, atau apakah kita perlu berkolaborasi dengan pihak-pihak lainnya? Dan yang paling penting, kita ingin pengunjung belajar apa atau merasakan apa. Jadi bagaimana museum bisa berperan dalam intervensi mungkin karena kognitif dan emosinya para pengunjung.
I will elaborate on it with this next slide. So we have, for instance, exhibitions aiming at artifact displays for focusing on collections, mainly focusing at showing art. See here in the Museum of Fundy, in Georgia, some other museums, sometimes a lot of objects, or small amount of objects, but that is the object-based, I would say, old school type of museums, before the paradigm of the visitor and
kemudian masuk ke beberapa tipologi museum. Yang pertama, tipologi yang pertama adalah museum yang mendisplay objek atau artefak. Jadi ini adalah pendekatan yang konvensional, object based, jadi berbasis objek, di mana ya objek-objek koleksi ya dipamerkan saja, di display seperti itu. Jadi memamerkan seni atau benda-benda di.
Okay. Another type is the exhibition as a communicator of idea. It's more about the material than about the objects in itself. Objects are supporting the idea. You see here in the museums in Russia, painting show the replica, which tells the story about the world.
Sebelumnya itu basisnya objek, yang ini basisnya.
The focus of physical activity, mostly inside museums like AMIDA, of course, and from here the Museum of our science centers. So they are often called the hands-on museums. You can learn by doing.
Tipologi berikutnya adalah museum sebagai aktivitas ya. Jadi basisnya adalah aktivitas dan yang mau disasar supaya pengunjung itu merasakan kesenangan, rekreasi, edukasi, dan ini contohnya misalnya taman mini atau museum Amperawa gitu ya. Ini istilah yang digunakan Mas adalah hands-on. Jadi pengunjung bisa beraktivitas, memegang-pegang dan turut serta dan berpartisipasi dalam pengalaman.
So not so much about the vision, the material, heritage, but really to emotionally understand the sense and spirit of a place. So that's often done by types of immersive techniques, like audio visuals or reenactment things like that, or the place itself has this kind of spiritual
yang fokusnya adalah pada situs itu sendiri, semangat, kemudian spirit dari lokasi atau tempat itu. Mas mencontohkan misalnya rumah kelahiran Soekarno ya, jadi museumnya itu tidak terlalu banyak objek, tetapi kesan yang diberikan itu sangat intens karena disitulah proklamator kita lahir gitu misalnya. Jadi dia fokusnya bukan pada objek material atau imaterial, tapi sense, rasa, spirit, sehingga biasanya tempat-tempat ini juga melibatkan reenactment atau pengalaman imersif untuk memunculkan sense tersebut atau spirit paling bekerja. Jadi narasi ini kan dikembangkan berdasarkan bukti, dan orang-orang lebih tertarik pada cerita, pada narasi dibandingkan hanya objek-objek dengan label saja.
Of course, it starts with the concept. You dream what you want, you have done all the research and the work and the things, and then you know why you made it, for whom, and how it supports the mission and the vision of your museum. You have some idea about the design, the form, the typology, what kind of exhibition it is, the theme, the scope, content, and the scale. On the museum in Ternate, the Fortnite Museum, and we divided the group in 5, and they all came up with very different approaches and concepts for their museum. It was all about the same history, but the narrative was quite divided between many different ideas. So there's one that they put forth, one wanted to make a kind of museum of economies of isolate, the other one would make a museum of colonization. Great, the nature of my gift of nature gave the spices to the people of Ternate, which also meant a lot of troubles in history. And the last one wanted to celebrate their sultanate in this museum. So that's one position, one side, and different stories.
Mas kemudian mulai masuk ke tahapan-tahapan yang lebih teknis. Jadi beliau menekankan ada perbedaan antara menceritakan dengan memperlihatkan cerita. Dan kemudian beliau memperlihatkan ada 6 langkah yang ada di slide juga, 6 langkah bagaimana kita bisa merubah dari ide menjadi pamerannya, menjadi display. Yang pertama, langkah pertama adalah soal konsep. Jadi yang pasti kita harus memiliki konsep museum itu. Museum itu tentu kita punya visi dan misi, apa yang mau disampaikan, museum ini mau memperlihatkan apa dan sebagainya, dan juga perlu memperhatikan tipologi yang tadi dijelaskan oleh Mas. Pameran seperti apa, kemudian cakupannya apa, kontennya nanti akan seperti apa. Nah, beliau memberikan contoh dari training di museum yang terkait dengan Museum Fort Oranye di Maluku, di mana di kegiatan itu beliau membagi kelompok membagi peserta menjadi 5 kelompok, dan masing-masing kelompok sebenarnya menawarkan konsep atau tema yang berbeda-beda ya. Jadi misalnya ada kelompok yang mau membicarakan Fort Oranye sebagai simbol spice trade, perdagangan rempah. Kemudian kelompok lain menawarkan Fort Oranye sebagai museum tentang kolonialisme. Kelompok lainnya lagi mau mempresentasikan Fort Oranye sebagai museum tentang makanan dan rempah-rempah. Kelompok lainnya lagi misalnya mau mempresentasikan museum Fort Oranye sebagai sejarah Kesultanan Ternate. Jadi ini sejarah yang sama, situs yang sama, Fort Oranye, tetapi narasinya atau konsep.
The less or something like that, it's all possible depending big idea. What do you want to tell? Because we are telling a story, right? Yes, storytelling. So what is the message? And some people define this as like the message, the big idea, or the core idea is the single notion that you want your visitor to leave. Very short. The storyline, you can read it and you can select it. The important message of this time is that the storyline-based exhibition is not in a book form. It is no text put on the wall. But it's a combination of it all. So, design is very important here. And the framework of this design is always what we call storyline. Some 70s, and in the blue clouds in the bottom you see there, you find the objects, which is the media, the interactives and so on. So this is the framework we use, and on the left field you see the type of text you can use. So that is, I think, very clear to you, because this is common practice, I think, for most of you.
Ya, tentang storyline. Jadi Max memberikan catatan bahwa storyline ini bukan seperti kita menulis buku, ada bab-babnya, terus buku itu ditempel storyline ini. Dan ini adalah skema ini adalah hal yang cukup standar. Jadi kita mulai dengan tema pameran, tema besar, kemudian bisa dibagi menjadi beberapa tema kecil. Kita bisa memikirkan objek apa, atau foto, atau media, atau bentuk-bentuk apa yang bisa mensupport tema-tema tersebut. Dan di setiap tema juga kita bisa memikirkan teksnya. Jadi teks untuk introduction, untuk perkenalan, kemudian teks untuk bagian-bagian, kemudian subteks, objek label di objek, kemudian kalau ada foto maka captionnya apa, dan sidebar kalau misalnya.
Okay. And organizing the space in a logical, understandable, and attractive way which supports your big idea, supports your message. And of course it consists of those things like content, etc. Every museum, as you know. So in the end, you come up with a kind of scheme like this. It can be very complicated, but you put everything in it, text, labels, objects. And so this is your exhibition of paper, not in space. The image of what your exhibition is about. Next, please. And then the designer comes in. Maybe you like yourself, the designer. Sometimes you hire a designer, and it mostly goes from the picture on the left, kind of basic idea, based on your message, on your scheme, just fit it into space and work out to see the right in a more or less detailed exhibition. That you also keep in mind always how the visitor acts. So we call this the visitor journey. What is the way you perceive the building? Where does it enter? Where is the end? What do you want to be the highlight in the exhibition? Don't give it away immediately at the start. Sometimes you hide things a little bit that they can discover themselves. So that is a very interesting way of thinking of the concept. Very much depending on the way people or cultures act. In Indonesia, school children here in the act different than this man does in Colombo, and in Europe, America. So please, would you represent the vision? The number 4 design, and I hope that what I talked about here. left at the start. Normally I take 2 days. Now only 40 minutes. So I don't blame you if you don't get it right now. And then we come to the prediction stage. As they do here in the former company process, so I already made a small presentation of Sukarno. But is there? Last. What is building up there? But I won't talk about design because you are the experts on that. You can find very good designers in Indonesia. So you can get them free. If you get the slides delivered by PDF to you, you can see the web addresses. These are simple, but very helpful documents like this, only 10 pages. And for me, it was extremely helpful to think and rethink making exhibitions. And there are also good books if you are really interested. You can get them through Amazon or other deliveries of developing exhibitions in the way I try to explain.
Desain itu memang diserahkan kepada kita karena menurut beliau kita sudah banyak pengalaman, kita tahu objek-objek apa, kita bekerja dengan partner-partner atau kolaborator di disiplin lain, tetapi yang perlu diperhatikan adalah pengalaman pengunjung. Jadi bagaimana dalam display atau mendesain kita perlu mengingat kira-kira bagaimana pengunjung akan bereaksi terhadap display atau terhadap objek yang kita presentasikan. Kita perlu memperhatikan juga di mana pengunjung akan masuk, di mana mereka akan keluar, apa yang mau ditekankan atau apa yang mau di-highlight, dan apakah semua itu mau kita beberkan di depan atau ada beberapa yang mau disembunyikan dan diperlihatkan di saat bisa terkecil.
Saya lihat dari simpul Singapura. Kebetulan tempat kita itu swasta. Ini tempatnya kurang besar dan banyak film-film lama banyak sekali. Dan kita ambil dengan menarik. Tapi tempatnya rentas. Bagaimana strategi supaya apa yang paling bagus yang kita sampaikan. Tapi pengunjungnya lain. Tadi disampaikan pesan penting setelah dunia
Thank you for your question. It is I think it's the basic question of every museum director: how to make selection for object. I think if you know what story you like to tell, you can try to find what objects fit best into the story. That's one solution. Other solution is to do it on value. What are the most valuable objects you have, the most important, the most unique, the most significant? If you have this idea about what that is possible that it brings you a list of the most important objects, and you say, oh, this has certainly to be included. Certain possibility is just try co-creation. Try to make a small committee with your public, maybe schools or students, and try to include them in the process of selection. Because you are the expert. They are the expert on the object.
Pertanyaan. Nah, jadi ada 3 hal yang bisa dilakukan. Pertama, tentukan apa cerita yang mau disampaikan. Maka itu akan masuk ke dalam adalah menentukan objek apa yang paling penting yang mau
case study, and we hope that I can explain a little bit about the practice of how we make a storyline. The case study is called Ons Land. I'm going to tell you more about the title a little later. Ons Land, Decolonization Generation Stories. We chose this case study not only because it is a good example of a so-called narrative-based exhibition, but also because the theme is closely related to Indonesia this week, so we hope that this is also interesting for you to hear as a case study. Max and I, as time and
sejarah Indonesia ini dibuat tahun 2022 for 5-7 years. Jadi pameran ini akan berlangsung selama 5-7 tahun dan dimulai dari tahun 2022.
A little bit about this place. It is in The Hague, and it is a building that houses 5 institutions that represent communities in the Netherlands with roots in Indonesia, related with the Dutch East Indies colonial history and the effects of the decolonization process. I don't need to repeat them, but the most important for this lecture is the Indies Herinneringscentrum, the Indies Remembrance Center, and the Moluk's Historisch Museum. In this Sophiahof there is a museum space, and it is called Van Indië tot Nu, from the Indies until now. The initiative is taken by the Indies Herinneringscentrum and the Moluk's Historisch Museum. Currently, in the Netherlands, there are around 2 million people living with a special bond with the former Dutch Indies. They, or their forefathers, came to the Netherlands after the Republic of Indonesia was declared. It was the largest wave of immigration to the Netherlands ever. And their immigration had a profound influence on Dutch society. But it was not easy. Many of them suffered in silence, and some of them were not so silent. So in 2020, the Indies Herinneringscentrum and the Moluk's Historisch Museum, they took the initiative to create this permanent exhibition in Sophiahof about how Dutch colonial history continues to have an impact on the Netherlands and on the communities that they represent.
Oke, ini menarik sekali. Jadi pameran Ons Land ini diadakan di Museum Sophiahof di Den Haag, dan Sophiahof ini sendiri adalah sebuah gedung yang ditempati oleh institusi yang memiliki koneksi atau hubungan dengan sejarah Indonesia. Institusi itu adalah seperti tercatat Indies Herinneringscentrum, Museum Maluku, Stichting Pelita, Indies Platform, Internasional Herdenking untuk 15 Agustus. Nah, dan sebenarnya cerita tentang sejarah Indonesia dan warisan kolonialisme itu sebenarnya masih menjadi topik yang panas di Belanda. Nah, dan salah satu topik yang cukup panas adalah gelombang migrasi yang terjadi pasca kemerdekaan Indonesia atau pasca agresi militer atau yang dikenal dengan decolonization wars, perang dekolonisasi, di mana ada sekitar 2 juta orang yang sekarang tinggal di Indonesia yang memiliki keterikatan dengan Hindia Belanda di masa lalu. Dan ini adalah migrasi yang terbesar di Belanda hingga saat ini, tetapi juga migrasi yang paling rumit dan paling sulit karena banyak orang yang terbuka, banyak yang juga harus beradaptasi dengan Belanda ketika perang kemerdekaan.
idea I was talking about, the first idea of the two museums, the Herinnering Center, this initiative, what were the next steps? Well, first what we did was to make a project organization, which you can see here in this. A project organization and a project team were formed, and it was to define what kind of exhibition was needed and to develop a storyline and an exhibition concept. In the next slides I will show you briefly the composition of the teams. Well, here, this is what they call the steering committee. That's actually the commissioner of the people of the project. The project team, two of the directors of the Museum and the Herinnering Center were inside. Then there is this one. Next slide, please. This was our project team. As you can see in the middle, the previous, this one. Our project team, you can see Max and me, we were the project leaders, the managers, project managers. There were the four historians, that were curators of the two exhibitions, two museums, and the two directors that were involved. Next slide. The exhibition concept, the design, the production and installation was organized by Cosman de Jong. That is an exhibition design group specialized in creating narrative spaces, and we selected them as the needed expertise and feedback from outside. And here you see two professors from the Netherlands. They specialized in the history of the Dutch Indies and decolonization. And on the right you see four Indonesians who work and live in the Netherlands, but they could very well advise us about how Indonesia would see our storyline. Are we in the right storyline? That is what they advised us about.
Seperti dijelaskan oleh Petra, ini pameran ini melibatkan cukup banyak pihak. Ada tiga tim utama, jadi steering committee, kemudian project team dan konsultan. Steering committee-nya sendiri itu terdiri dari direktur-direktur kedua institusi tersebut, jadi direktur IHC dan direktur Museum Maluku. Kemudian project team itu yang mendesain konten, mengembangkan konten, terus mengembangkan desainnya, dan di dalam project team juga ada semacam lembaga-lembaga yang bergerak dalam misalnya animasi atau audiovisual, ada copywriter, ada graphic design dan lain sebagainya. Dan tim yang ketiga adalah konsultan, dan konsultan ini orang-orang di luar project team. Ada dua orang profesor ahli di bidang sejarah kolonial dan pasca kolonial di India Belanda, dan ada 4 orang Indonesia yang akan meminta pendapatnya bagaimana kira-kira jika orang Indonesia melihat objek atau konten-konten yang display. Jadi ini yang sangat nyata di masyarakat Belanda saat ini, dan ini harus banyak orang. Dan kedua adalah proses dekolonisasi itu belum selesai. Semua orang bisa berkontribusi pada proses dekolonisasi ini dengan perspektif dan kapabilitasnya masing-masing.
It refers to a complex mix of identities, and it's a question: where do you come from? Where do you belong? With whom do you feel connected?
Judul dari ini adalah negara kami, dan ini cukup provokatif ya, karena dia mempertanyakan karena ini terkait dengan migrasi perpindahan masyarakat Maluku misalnya ke Belanda. Jadi dari mana kita berasal, dan di mana kita tinggal, dan koneksi apa yang terbangun.
So, we as a project team, we had to deal with a complex story, as you understand. A past and a present with many different perspectives and various voices and feelings. It is an urgent but also a delicate and a risky subject, and these were our storyline and design challenges. First, how can we represent so many perspectives, groups and voices? Second, how can we, on a small scale, no more than 200 square meters in the Sophiahof, tell such a complicated and long story? And thirdly, how can we make the exhibition inclusive and a safe space for all visitors?
Jadi ini tantangannya karena ceritanya sangat kompleks. Bagaimana pameran ini bisa menginkorporasi berbagai macam pandangan dan suara atau pengalaman. Bagaimana pameran ini bisa merepresentasikan begitu banyak kelompok dan narasi. Bagaimana tempat yang cukup terbatas hanya 200 meter persegi bisa menceritakan narasi yang begitu panjang dan kompleks. Bagaimana pameran ini bisa menjadi pameran yang inklusif dan menciptakan tempat yang aman. Objek-objek pribadi ya, keluarga, perasaan mereka dan diceritakan oleh mereka sendiri. Pamerannya itu mulai dari masa kini, terus bagian per bagian itu mundur ke belakang, mundur ke sejarah kolonial, dan kemudian berakhir kembali di masa kini.
So the selection and the production of the family story, so the core of the exhibition and the core of the storyline. Because with the story, so first a selection of the story of the families and their family stories. They were told by the curators of the Independent Center and the Historic Museum. Then came the video interviews by the video producers. Next step, the story writer had to edit all these videos of the family stories. After that came the AV production, and animation of the family stories, and every step the production team, the project team checked and approved all the stories. So that is that part of production.
Kemudian mereka menemukan dengan langkah-langkah yang dilakukan. Jadi yang pasti tim kurator dari IHC dan menganalisis keluarga-keluarga dan narasi keluarga yang akan dilakukan. Kemudian setelah diseleksi, kemudian ada video interview oleh produser, kemudian dari video interview tersebut kemudian masuk ke produksi audiovisual dan animasi. Kemudian seluruh langkah-langkah tersebut selalu dicek dan disetujui oleh project team yang mereka selalu mengecek setiap tahap. Yang pertama, storyline-nya dibagi ke dalam 5 ruangan, dan 5 ruangan ini merepresentasikan 5 babak kehidupan dari keluarga-keluarga tersebut. Kemudian storyline juga dikaitkan dengan pilihan objek-objek, jadi foto keluarga, kemudian pusaka-pusaka keluarga. Kemudian storyline juga diubah menjadi media-media digital, infografis, audiovisual, animasi. Storyline juga diubah menjadi audio tour.
That's multi-experience for the visitor. So that is still in one room, and there are very different images that you can get there. Constantly changing images. You want to get?
Jadi ini adalah ruangan pertama yang judulnya Kaleidoscopic Netherlands. Jadi Belanda dan kaleidoskop yang mau memperlihatkan bagaimana Belanda itu memiliki penduduk yang sangat berbeda-beda, ras dan sangat beragam.
Years in the Netherlands after 1945, and it was cold and not only the weather. Of course, they had to adapt to the weather. It was completely new, with ice and rain, etc. For many of the people who came here, of the little house Next slide. Here you can see through the window an object that is related to the story of the people who are in the video above it. Different kind of wall where people could live after they arrived in the Netherlands. Ya,
ini menarik sekali untuk masuk ke dalam cerita keluarga. Ruangan kedua itu mulai bicara bagaimana keluarga ini tiba di Belanda, dan kesan yang mau ditampilkan adalah dingin. Dingin itu tidak hanya berarti dingin karena cuaca, tetapi seluruh nuansa yang dirasakan oleh keluarga-keluarga ini adalah dingin. Jadi mereka tidak diterima dengan tangannya, kedatangan mereka, terus dari mana mereka berasal dan sebagainya. Di salah satu sisi apartemen itu ada display barang-barang milik keluarga. Kayak tadi ada rantang, ada buku masak yang merepresentasikan di dapur atau situasi yang sangat domestik sama.
The next slide. Then we go to room 3. Again, this is a step back in time. This is called the journey or the passage. This tells the story of the people, how they went from Indonesia after the independence to the Netherlands. It was a passage by the ocean. Transparent curtains that you can see here, with video projections on it. They remind of the waves of the ocean. At the same time, they evoke the idea of memories of the past. Can I have the next slide? Well, this is called the journey or the passage. Oh, you see it here in the bold text, and you see the transparent waves, you might say, of which films are projected. Of course, I said every story has an object that symbolizes this story. And what you see here is a flag that is brought along in the suitcase of the Manahutu family. They are London people who dream of the RMS, the malevolent, but that hope is in vain, it never will happen. One more slide. Yes, here you see the story of the family Yahweh, a little teddy bear that also made the passage over the ocean from Indonesia to the Netherlands, and his owner, he still keeps him as a reminder of this difficult period. And one more slide. Here you see the dreamy atmosphere. It's between hope and despair, between memories and future. That is the basic idea of this passage, of this room.
Di ruang tiga, jadi tadi kan settingannya adalah mundur ke belakang. Jadi di ruang pertama memperkenalkan kedalaman keluarga, kemudian bagian per bagian mulai mundur tentang bagaimana mereka tiba, bagaimana perjalanan mereka. Dan di ruang tiga ini membicarakan tentang perjalanan mereka. Jadi desainnya kalau tadi Bapak Ibu kan ada semacam tirai-tirai yang merepresentasikan gelombang air karena mereka naik.
The time of the colonial period. How could we evoke that? It was such a large period. So many things, so many things happened. So many stories, so many perspectives. Well, the designer decided to take the wayang shadow play as a basic idea to tell the stories of this part of to tell the stories of the families of this part of the exhibition. From every family, there was again one object that symbolizes the story that is being told here, and it was a cutout from the photo of the object was cut out, and that as a kind of as a wayang puppet, it was placed on this wall, And here you see a projection. You could place on it. You could direct the light towards the object, and then the story would start. Animation developers. Can I have the next slide? You can see a little bit how it was an animation. It was very simple, but they are like violin puppets, but then in a modern form. One more slide. Another story, and also an infographic that you see on the right hand.
Di ruang 4 ini kemudian bicara soal sejarah kolonialisme. Tetapi sejarah kolonialismenya pun itu dipotret dari kisah ke-8 keluarga tersebut. Dan yang ditampilkan adalah objek dari masing-masing keluarga.
By the designer, it's called Our Homeland or Ons Land and Now. So now we are back in the here and now and today. And the idea is to make a sitting room with family portraits, and among these portraits there are videos in which you see again the storyteller of each family, and he or she tells about how their life is now, how they look back at their history, how they deal with it, and how they look at the future. That is what you see in this part. And they want to show a homely situation. Well, this next slide, this is what it became in the end. It's a bit different from the first design. But the 8 families here are presented with their family photos on the wall. How are they doing now? And on the AV screens, like I said, the family voice tells about their lives in the present and their dreams for the future. So actually this exhibition ends quite hopeful. Their new lives, their new homes, how they want to develop themselves. And that is how we also wanted to end this exhibition by the young. Well, this is about involving the visitor. There are 2 moments in the exhibition where this is very actively done. It's in the beginning of the exhibition, Ons Land. It says Ons Land is not neutral, the story is not complete, and it is not over. It is a snapshot in an ongoing process of awareness granting. Are immediately visible in the exhibition in the kaleidoscope that you saw in the first room with all these changing images. The people who are visiting and visitors are in that way involved in the exhibition with their comments or their questions or their remarks. Lessons that we learned and that we want to share with you. That, well, first we said focus in the exhibition and in the storyline. That's key, that is the most important. Dare, choose, kill your darlings. Don't show too much, just make a very strong selection with objects and also the story itself. You can always get into touch with us. This is our contact information of Time Amsterdam. So I hope we give you some, well, more info about making a storyline. Thank you again.
ternyata enggak. Habis pelatihan itu dulu berapa hari terus ini itu menghilangkan kelembapan. Itu luar biasanya. Orang terus tuliskan rasanya luar biasa, terus cium ini luar biasa. Kita menjaga aset nasional, ini kan asetnya bangsa. Museum besar ada koleksinya macam ada. Jangan jaga koleksinya ini harus jadi museum enggak. Ada museum besar ya, di Eropa juga yang koleksinya cuma satu. Nah, koleksi itu benda betul, fragmen, benda hasil replika kebanyakan, ya, spesimen, rekonstruksi dan restorasi. Jadi macam-macam ini contohnya. Kalau sudah masuk ya, nah ini kan barangnya asli. Terus ada satu yang replika, yang bukan asli dipindah sekarang, tapi dimasukkan dalam koleksi asli. Ya, ini. Itu macam-macam dari hibah, dari pertukaran, pembelian, hadiah, warisan, konversi. Ya, itu masuk di penerimaan. Ya, sih betul samping top ini kan itu segala untuk museum. Nah, ternyata keluarga sekarang kondisinya menurun gitu. Ya, arlojinya pengantar luar biasa nilainya. Begini, terus akhirnya diminta kembali. Koleksi itu diminta kembali. Tidak satu dua, banyak sekali. Itu yang kita dapat dari hibah keluarga. Nah, kalau sudah begitu, museum bisa apa? Ayo, mana hasil kamu kalau kamu itu betul-betul diberikan barang ini ke kamu? Tidak ada. Pokoknya terima kasih Pak, waktu itu terima kasih, dikasih ini, dikasih. Kita lupa. Ya, kementerian pun juga hanya ditunjuk beberapa orang yang ngurus itu, karena dia harus berhubungan dengan museum-museum di luar. Oke, ya. Nah, itu tadi mestinya sudah diterangkan tadi next ya, tentang penataan tadi. Ya, terus tadi sudah menerangkan koleksi storyline, alur penunjuk sudah, ya Mas. Terus ya, pendekatannya open storage yang tadi saya bilang, jadi kita tidak hanya display aja, tapi bagian ke belakang dapurnya itu. Dapur ini versi ini barangkali itu kita tahu itu jadi apa namanya, untuk pendekatan tatap. Kenapa? Oh, datang ya. Nah itu. Jadi terus idenya bagaimana ya? Ya, yang pertama, oke. Nah, fase konseptual. Konseptual ini sebetulnya saya takut kalau umpamanya nata musik ini ternyata salah posisi. Raga besi ya, datang enggak. Wah itu di mana di medan atau di mana kamera. Jadi itu penting sekali tadi yang diterangkan kamera tadi, penting sekali. Kemudian yang kedua, presentasi desain tata pamer. Saya menjawab, saya punya ide gini, ada penunjuknya ini kira-kira diterima atau tidak. Kemudian selanjutnya pada pengukuran lokasi, pemilihan koleksi, pembuatan maket, asisi desain dan produksi. Ya. Nah, ini barang dari seluruh Indonesia. Satu uang besar sekali, semua datang begini. Ya, terus datang koleksinya datang begini. Kita inventarisasi, kemudian kita bikin maket. Kita bikin maket ini jadi sesuai dengan ukuran bendanya. Ada yang dari NTT itu ada cara bomnya itu. Masuk ke tahap produksi. Terus ya ini kita bikin display. Ini waktunya 5 hari. Saat itu 5 hari. Terus kita bikin lemari di Indonesia, bikin apa ini lantai 2, 1 untuk yang Jawa dan Bali, untuk ya yang atas untuk luar Jawa. Ya, next. Ya ini tahap finishing ya. Penataan apa namanya, caption itu bisa semuanya ini dilampirkan, gunakan ya, katut itu susu ya ini terus akhirnya muncul dengan keragaman warna mereka, dan ini asli desain mereka, tapi tapi memang dibikin jreng gitu biar, karena yang datang itu anak-anak muda, jadi biar warnanya bright. Nah, ini semua sudah termasuk ini. Seperti datang ini kalau datang terus kita nggak tahu namanya, ini dipikir jadi resep loh, jadi larangan, ranjang resep loh. Ternyata ini untuk menutup kali di daerah Jawa Tengah, ini untuk menutup di sawah, terus talinya itu ditarikkan ke bawah. Waktu kesenggol itu sejarahnya, waktu kesenggol ternyata bunyi ping gitu. Ping terus jadi terus dibikin senar sekalian gitu. Terus jadi seperti kita. Ini sebelum Colorado ada langkai koleksi. Terus ini open storage, jadi open storage. Saya bilang open storage karena terlalu berat, sampai 1 ton semua, terus ditata. Terus sekarang jadinya begini. Kemudian beberapa kali ada koreksi desain. Terus jadi sekarang di objeknya kronologis, ya, sama taksonomi dan yang ada juga gabungan antara taksonomi dan kronologis. Jadi sekarang jadinya ini ada diorama dan diorama ada karena kesulitan kita menerapkan
pada satu dari 3 oleh para narasumber yang terakhir dibawakan oleh Bapak Wijayono. Untuk para audiens, apakah ada yang ingin dipertanyakan untuk materi kali ini? 2 orang penanya.
Itu ada kasus di usul kami, itu ada beberapa koleksi yang secara kertas belum ada, tapi semacam surat berita koleksinya itu kita dapat dari mana, itu kita kesulitan untuk mencari sumbernya.
Terima kasih pertanyaannya. Jadi legalitas tadi tanya legalitas seperti apa. Jadi saya ingin ambil contoh satu yang dari Jukran, karena Mas Ruan dari Jukran, Mas Ruan. Ayo Mas cerita. Jukran itu dulu ada di mana? Ada beberapa koleksi-koleksi yang sekarang masih diperdebatkan. Itu milik Pemda atau kalau sedang di museum ya kan? Ya, kebetulan saya nata museumnya juga ini. Berapa? Pasuruan, Museum Cengbo dulu namanya ya sekarang ini. Jadi terus juga kan mau apa namanya, salah satunya ada beberapa prasasatinya yang mau ditaruh di museum. Sekarang bagaimana posisinya? Itu tetap tempatnya prasasti tetap di situ ya?
Tetap di Banyu Biru.
Nah, tetap di Banyu Biru. Dulu itu ada rencana mau dipindah ke museum.
Itu dulu ada rencana mau dipindah ke museum, tapi di Banyu Biru akhirnya dikasih juru pelihara dari BPJB, waktu itu BPJB, sekarang jadi BPK. Akhirnya tidak jadi ditaruh ke museum dan tetap di
Banyu Biru. Ya. Mas Setio dari Jember ini. Ya, jadi itu salah satu contoh. Jadi memang awal itu berita penerimaan saya bukan berita acara, tapi mungkin yang dikatakan tadi kan tiba-tiba sudah ada. Saya kerja di sini itu koleksinya sudah ada di sini. Saya tidak tahu ini dari mana. Temuan yang didapat dari dalam tanah, terus negara belum punya, dianggap penting oleh negara, itu bisa diambil.
Ya, pernah juga yang di Museum Jungkrang itu ada beberapa koleksi yang kita temukan, kita ambil dari suatu desa yang di situ juga sudah ada berita acara penerimaan, sudah kira-kira dapat 2 tahunan ya Mas ya, 2 tahunan. Setelah itu akhir-akhir ini sama kepala desanya diminta kembali. kita bercerita dan berargumentasi. Bagaimanapun ini karena sudah ada berita acara serah terima, kita harus juga bisa mempertahankan itu sebagai koleksi museum dan sebagai media stempelnya, sudah ada saksi-saksinya bahwa penyerahan ini sudah ada di dalam berita acara ini. Kalau panjenengan minta kembali, tolong panjenengan berhubungan dengan Pak Bupati. Kalau misalnya Pak Bupati oke, tolong berhubungan dengan kementerian. Sampai kita gitukan.
Ya, sekarang beberapa saksi. Salah satunya adalah pihak keluarga. Makanya tadi ada tambahan yang dari pihak ahli waris, gitu ya, ahli waris atau apa. Itu ya persis seperti ini. Jadi itu memang harus kerja ekstra. Ya, memang harus kita urut ya. Itu dari mana? Ya, nanti prosesnya. Nanti ada lembar itu kemungkinan kalau Bapak tidak ditemukan sumbernya dari mana itu harus isi, nanti saya kasih itu nanti panjang kalau sebetulnya nanti juga sering penghargaan kemarin juga saya lihat minggu ini juga ada musim obor, minggu depan tanggal 18. Jadi kalau ditanya resepnya tadi, jadi kita melakukan yang pertama memang kita niat untuk mengajari. Jadi bukan sekedar ini ya, sekedar menyenangkan orang datang sekolah dengan pakaian terus ini kan. Kita sekian lama waktu Juli datang segala macam kita tunjukkan. Kita melakukan langkah ini, langkah jalan, langkah harus pakai baju, harus pakai ini yang tadi itu ada.
So you have in mind what you're going to tell in your exhibition to your visitor. You understand it? So first sit. Don't act. Just sit, talk with people and write. It is like writing a film. You know, film script. The script, you know, and you make a script and you write out what the exhibition is about. What data, what time, what are the main themes. You know, thematic panorama. And then you step by step make it a little bit.
Katanya Max tadi, kalau sudah ada storyline udah lama, itu kebingungan. Jadi apa yang harus dilakukan? Duduk, don't talk, jangan berbicara. Pikirkan, lihat koleksi-koleksi itu. Ya, kemudian koleksi berdasarkan storyline yang lama. Kalau perlu bikin booking itu. Mudah-mudahan tidak semua menjadi bentor sekarang. Tidak bentor, jadi ya.
Storyline. Bagaimana kalau misalnya kami tidak ikut terlibat dalam konseptual storyline. Jadi storyboard dan storyline itu sudah ada, sehingga saat sudah kami saat ingin memilih koleksi mungkin ya. Itu tidak terlalu match dengan storyline dan storyboard yang ada.
Ya, jadi ya memang idealnya memang disesuaikan ya jumlah sama yang ada. Ya. Jadi nanti untuk menjalankan segala macam nanti sesuai dengan standar. Jadi akan lucu nanti kalau ada temuan bahwa ini koleksinya sekian, yang beli kenyataannya sekian banyak.
Terus mungkin ada beberapa. Yang pertama mungkin karena tadi habis membahas soal legal ya, jadi mungkin saya akan bertanya sedikit soal legal. Jadi kalau kasusnya di museum kami itu hibah juga, hampir semuanya itu mendapat hibah dari museum Wonokering. Nah, kemudian berita acara itu sudah didapatkan, tapi jumlah yang diterimakan dengan yang dituliskan itu berbeda. Jauh lebih banyak yang diterimakan daripada yang dicatat. Nah, itu apakah kami perlu untuk memperbarui, membuat susulannya, jadi susulan yang sudah diterimakan, atau ya udah biarin itu aja?
Pertanyaan Mas Taufik tadi, bagaimana merupakan
orang
adalah recycle yang sudah dilakukan.
Yep.
Yang pertama tadi Max bilang kalau perlu kita punya ambasador yang kuat, tokoh-tokoh masyarakat yang dapat mengaruhi masyarakat untuk program recycle.
Maybe first of all, may I introduce myself until now I don't have any idea. But thanks to Mac and Berta, thanks for inspire me about Mike. Thank you. Terus buat Pak Dwi, kalau mau ngawali storyline paling keren dari mana dulu? Untuk ngawali storyline. Terima kasih.
But also in Indonesia especially, the waste problem, recycling, that kind of topics are influencing us all. To be honest, I think it is very difficult from a European perspective to see how you could address your fellow Indonesians. You are a mission-driven museum, so you have a mission, and the mission is to make a better world, I think, and a better Indonesia. I think for you it is important to get as much as supporters and ambassadors for your museum, so like a community groups or whatever, and share, look for the stories in your country which are successful, like best practices about, say, plastic ban or things like that, and make exhibitions about that. There are, I think, many people in Indonesia concerned with the environmental issues, and I think you should make them inspiring by exhibitions, not showing waste, but telling them good stories. And for us it's difficult to point out what story, but I think Petra has some ideas what media you could use.
Yes, I think it is such an urgent subject that you are working on, and it is so global and so all affecting everybody, and not only the people, but the whole nature and animals, etc. I was thinking of two things. It is very important, I think, that you offer your public new possibilities, that you offer them that they know how they can do, how they can act themselves, what they can do themselves, that they don't, that you don't say to them, don't use this anymore, don't do that anymore, but you give them a perspective of things that they can do, how they can contribute as a person, as a small family, or maybe a group, what you can do, because then people are inspired. That is one thing. And on the other hand, I was thinking, this is something that is more than a museum. Maybe you can also try to work with storytellers, writers, maybe composers, singers, songwriters, all these kind of people could be, because it's such an important project, and they can help you, that the museum forms part of a greater group of people that make people aware of it, if you understand what I mean. That it inspires me immediately. If you say this, I think, oh, how can you do that? But that is a very, how do you say this? It makes me my mind run. What kind of things can you do with it? Because it is something that touches my heart too. I'm very curious to see this museum. Well, hopefully we can help to help you think about your solutions. But this is the first thing that comes up with me. That giving people a perspective, your visitors, that they for themselves can do little things, that they can contribute themselves, that they are not hopeless. That is one thing. And
nggih.
Ya, mungkin Mas Taufik sudah. Ya.
Ya, senang ininya Pak. Maksud saya dihubungkan sama yang tentang living museum, saya pengen tahu.
Oh, living museum.
Perspektif beliau tentang living museum.
Well, the concept of living museum is very vital in the market. I would maybe suggest you to a living museum is a place where something happens, where some action is, where maybe you can connect your museum to a public plastic or whatever, or something like that, or in a shop or in a hotel, that people can see how waste is created, how waste is recycled, something like that. So not bad heritage, but living heritage. You see what I mean? And I think we should have a brainstorm or something to see how that could work. It's for me a bit difficult to describe. But maybe we can have a chat after lunch to see what are the options for you in your specific situation.
Thank you. Pak Dwi belum jawab. Startnya story itu loh Pak. Bagusnya dari mana?
Ya, saya coba angkum ini ya. Saya coba
but also in Indonesia especially, the waste problem, recycling, that kind of topics are influencing us all. To be honest, I think it is very difficult from a European perspective to see how you could address your fellow Indonesians. You are a mission-driven museum, so you have a mission, and the mission is to make a better world, I think, and a better Indonesia. I think for you it is important to get as much as supporters and ambassadors for your museum, so like a community groups or whatever, and share, look for the stories in your country which are successful, like best practices about, say, plastic ban or things like that, and make exhibitions about that. There are, I think, many people in Indonesia concerned with the environmental issues, and I think you should make them inspiring by exhibitions, not showing waste, but telling them good stories. And for us it's difficult to point out what story, but I think Peter has some ideas what media you could use.
Yes, I think it is such an urgent subject that you are working on, and it is so global and so all affecting everybody, and not only the people, but the whole nature and animals, etc. I was thinking of two things. It is very important, I think, that you offer your public new possibilities, that you offer them that they know how they can do, how they can act themselves, what they can do themselves, that they don't, that you don't say to them, don't use it anymore, don't do that anymore, but you give them a perspective of things that they can do, how they can contribute as a person, as a small family, or maybe a group, what you can do, because then people are inspired. That is one thing. And on the other hand, I was thinking, this is something that is more than a museum. Maybe you can also try to work with storytellers, writers, maybe composers, singers, songwriters, all these kind of people could be, because it's such an important project, and they can help you, that the museum forms part of a greater group of people that make people aware of it, if you understand what I mean. That it inspires me immediately. If you say this, I think, oh, how can you do that? But that is a very, how do you say this? It makes my mind run. What kind of things can you do with it? Because it is something that touches my heart too. I'm very curious to see this museum. Well, hopefully we can help to help you think about your solutions. But this is the first thing that comes up with me. But giving people a perspective, your visitors, that they for themselves can do little things, that they can contribute themselves, that they are not hopeless. That is one thing. And
Thank you.
Ya, mungkin Mas Taufik sudah. Ya.
Ya, senang ininya Pak. Maksud saya dihubungkan sama yang tentang living museum. Saya pengen tahu perspektif beliau tentang living museum.
The concept of living museum is very vital. People like it. I would maybe suggest a living museum is a place where something happens, where some action is, where maybe you can connect the museum to a public plastic or whatever, or something like that, or in a shop or in a hotel, that people can see how waste is created, how waste is recycled, something like that. So not that heritage, but living heritage. You see what I mean? And I think we should have a brainstorm or something to see how that could work. It's for me a bit difficult to describe. But maybe we can have a chat after lunch to see what are the options for you in your specific situation.
Thank you. Pak Dwi belum jawab. Startnya story itu loh Pak. Bagusnya dari mana?
Ya, saya coba langsung ya. Saya coba pertanyaan Mas Taufik tadi, bagaimana mengembangkan, terus bagaimana cara mempengaruhi orang dalam recycle yang sudah dilakukan. Yang pertama tadi Max bilang kalau perlu